Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another show. My name is Tyler, and I'm here with Matt, the founder of ORATS. ORATS is an options analytics platform built on top of over 15 years of historical options data. Our dashboard is integrated with Tradier, meaning you can research and discover trades on our platform and then seamlessly send them through to your Tradier brokerage account. Today on the show, we're going to be using our AI chat agent named Otto to help us understand the market. Matt, do you want to share your screen and help us get started?
Sure. Yeah. So first, let's back up. ORATS has been around for a long time. Before that, I was a market maker on the SIBO. The problem with that is that there are 20 years and a bunch of tools and a bunch of different things that we can do, both with tools and APIs and historical data. Now the problem is for our clients is how to get it all into the right place. And to do that, we've developed an AI Otto, and we've embedded it on our website right here in the top right-hand corner. And then in our dashboard tools product, we put it over here, Ask Otto. And it's very helpful for doing a lot of things, Tyler.
Yeah, it's awesome. And one of the things about having it in the dashboard is that it can query live data for you if you have a live data agreement in place. So that's really cool.
I asked Otto, why are you important for me to use? And of course, Otto said, "Great question," because he's trying to help you out. So it's not financial advice. We put it up there, but like you said, it can pull real-time data and historical options data in seconds. So it gets you a lot of information quickly. It explains things very well, and it helps you find things in our platforms or in our APIs. And you could ask about strategies, about what the market's doing. And it saves you a ton of time, like skipping around. Hopefully, we've heard a lot of great things, haven't we, Tyler?
Yeah, Otto is a fan favorite. I think it's because ORATS, we've grown a lot, and our tool selection has grown a lot. So we have probably 20 different tabs and 20 different things you can do. So if you ask Otto, let's just say, how can I create a custom backtest? It'll tell you all the different ways to kickstart a custom backtest. And it'll also direct you to some videos on our YouTube channel that we've done here with Tradier. It'll direct you to content we've written on our website, on the university or the blog. So it has this way of kind of showing you the ropes of ORATS.
And we ask it what are people asking you? So then we try to improve the results, and we also we'll go in and we'll adapt the dashboard itself and the website to make the questions that we're getting a little bit more clear. For example, we get a fair amount of questions on F percentage. So if you go to our scanner and you look at there's a long call spread in SPY, you'll notice a D percentage and an F percentage and an S percentage, and people are like, what is that? So if you ask Otto, what's the F percentage? Well, that's our forecast edge. And then it goes through, all that, why it works. What is F versus D versus S? Forecast versus distribution edge versus S&V edge. And then it gives you a succinct, and then like you said, it gives you access to these YouTubes that we create, because like this is every week we're coming out with videos like this, and if we could tease, we're going to have Otto starting to come out with some helpful videos as well. So there's going to be a lot of targeted information. So if you ever need anything in your journey through the options world, you could go to ORATS, learn a lot about it. And that's the feedback that we've been getting is wow, Otto is very valuable. But like all AI, it does have some hallucinations, and we try to get at those very quickly. And we just did another update, or you did. So we're always trying to get better, Tyler.
Yeah, it's definitely not perfect. But as AI gets better, we're keeping up with the rate of progress, and we have some exciting stuff planned for it too.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, just the ability for it to understand you better, the trader, and to understand the capabilities of the tools better, and just to query and act on more data, I think is kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the big thing is just the time efficiency, that it says. You could spend a lot of time, but you have a need to do something, and you want to get it done. How does it do it the best? And like you said, it cannot do what is, it cannot provide exact financial or specific trades, but it does access and give you a lot of the information. So it walks that line. We are a robo advisor. ORATS is a robo advisor. And what that means is we can make recommendations if we do it from a website that everyone can access. So we can't like call someone up and tell them to buy security X, Y, or Z, but we can present recommendations on a website, and that's what this counts as. So those things Otto can do, and it's amazing to like see all the numbers go auto usage, and people are staying around longer, they're using it more, and yeah, it's a pretty incredible tool so far, Tyler.
Yeah, I like the best use cases there at the bottom because I feel like sometimes people use it expecting it to do something it simply can't do. But the more specific the question, and the more that it's about ORATs rather than a general question, like it's not an oracle. We get people asking it like, oh, "Will the market be up today?" And it's just like it's not going to know that.
Yeah, but it does know like market conditions. If I could spell market, that'd be great. You could just ask it like, what is the market doing today? Like, if you just want to come in and get like a broad outline of what's happening, and it will give you, both the market and some volatility and skew stuff. So it's showing just the indices, and then it shows the IVs. Actually, it looks like the IV's up a little bit today. Yeah, the market's slightly lower. VIX is up. Yeah, so it's now moderate. I did this question yesterday. SPY is 15, which is 15%, which is moderate. The term structure, positive contango. So that means the markets. So if you go to the outlook for the SPY, for example. First you could see the trade builder, and you could kind of see these dots, but if you go to the outlook, you could see that contango. It's still positive, which is good for the market, but it's probably, I'm guessing it's a little less positive. So I could go down to contango, and you could see it kind of coming down a little bit. So, but it's still very high. So like contango means, are these front months lower than the back months? We do a smoothing, not quite X earnings, but it's a smoothing intraday. So this is the smooth curved skew. So it does look like lower volatility in the front to higher volatility in the back, and that coincides with our graph of contango. So it's doing a good, it does a great job. It knows what's going on with contango. And the slope, that's actually, the 2.28 seems kind of low actually. So let's just look at slope. Yeah, versus it is kind of low. So this is the SPY slope versus its components. And so it's actually pretty low right now, especially in a market that's has pretty low volatility. like you could see when it got a lot higher over here. But now, it's kind of lower now. So, I still, like even though we're saying bearish on slope, just because it's above the 10-day moving average, but it's still kind of low overall. If you had a longer moving average, it would be kind of mixed. So that's an interesting take on Otto.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you jumped to the Outlook tab here. I just thought, it would be kind of cool to make some updates to the Outlook tab to where maybe we're showing some more things, but then show like an AI generated kind of summary at the top, like a written summary of the outlook for that particular stock. Would be kind of
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, like this, right?
Yeah,
So
like that, but at the
yeah,
top of the Outlook tab for every symbol. And what you just did, we have 6 graphs on there. It would basically just summarize and look at those graphs holistically and see like, oh, what's going on with this stock.
yeah. So you could tell that so we start with implied volatility, and this kind of line is implied volatility, and the dotted line is a 10-day moving average. So it's way below.
Yeah.
So, and it's been falling. That's usually pretty good for the stock. Stocks move or in opposition or counter to implied volatility. So as implied volatility goes down, it's usually pretty good for the market. And then we also look at SPY implied versus the components. So one of the important reasons that we look at that relationship is when the market's really bad, you may have heard the refrain that all correlations go to 1. But now this kind of correlation is this is as low as we've seen it. So that's pretty crazy that this relationship is so low, which is again, indicates a stable market, benefits of like the ETFs themselves. Dispersion. The benefits of owning an ETF is having a lot of different tickers in there, and that you're really seeing the benefit of it now, meaning the volatility is low in SPY versus the components, and this is usually the sign for a pretty healthy market. So it's Otto is rightly pointing that out. And I think yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if you asked Otto about the _C symbols, because we talk about that a lot, but I don't think it's very widely understood as among our clients.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So one of the things that when I was a trader on the floor, people would really look at related stocks and try to figure out how do you determine what a fair volatility is or a fair implied volatility? You look at, okay, what has the stock actually moved at historical volatility, but then you want to look at, well, what are some similar stocks or ETF to the ticker that we're looking at? How are they valuing things? So what we did was we said, well, let's take a bunch, and I think it's I don't know, I want to say 20 or 30. Did they tell us?
I think it's 30.
30, yeah. So
I mean, you could ask it.
Yeah, 30. Yeah. So so obviously we're going to have the SPY underscore. So there's 500 stocks that trade options in there, the Qs and the IWM, but we also do sector. And one of the reasons that we do that is we have a thing called best ETF, and the best ETF is often a sector ETF. So we'll use XLU for utilities, XLI for industrials, XLV for healthcare, XLK for technology. So it's listing all these symbols, which is really cool. And so when we do publish this in the Outlook, it has a, like Apple would be XLK. And so then you could tell, versus Apple's neighbors, how is the volatility, not just the volatility itself. So we could look at where the volatility is versus the 10-day. We could look at where the volatility is. I mean, look at how low Apple is versus the XLK-C. Like that, that's quite telling for Apple. And we could also look at Apple just in the trade builder. We show the implied volatility versus historical volatility. So the historical is the magenta, and blue is the IV. So both of those have been just coming down, down, down. Kind of, I guess back here in August it was quite a bit lower, but very low. And then you could see volatility kind of rising, but then going up towards the earnings. So you'll mostly always see a pop in earnings, and Otto could help you out on earnings too. So I'll change gears unless there's something else on the _C that you want to look at, Tyler.
I did want to talk about how that plays into the risk profile, because I know we've been doing a lot of updates to the risk profile, and we want to hear from our clients, what they think of that, and I think that kind of plays into that a little bit too.
Yeah, right. So in the risk profile that Tyler's talking about, this is a new tool that we have. So I have all these positions. So this is our ORATS paper trading, which is also a new tool. We have Auto Trade, which we've talked about before. But so what I like to do is, choose here's an iron condor in SPY. And then I could view this in the risk profile page, either here or here. And then it goes to the risk profile and shows the payoff here, right? So I could zoom out, zoom in. So we're kind of like near the money right now. We don't want it to go down. So, we could also do kind of a Greek overlay, but I could see that, it's a negative delta. And then you could see like the other Greeks here. And, but what Tyler's talking, and you can see there's some really cool things here, and you could adjust the volatility and such. But what Tyler's talking about is more in a portfolio analysis. Like what you want to do as a trader is, and I'm doing this all the time, is looking at like I don't want to be like leaning long or leaning way short, or I don't want to have a lot of risk, short or long, in any particular section or _C kind of best ETF. So like I had some risk in this like semis before. There was a lot of talk in China, and so the vol is going up. So I found myself selling some good juicy condors or put spreads. But then I said, oh shoot, I've got a lot too much risk. I could in the SMH, or that's the ETF that I like to use. So you could see that in the portfolio analysis. So I could now click on the portfolio analysis, and it selects all the symbols that I have, and which is a lot, and it will show what my overall position is. So my overall position I could see is very short, and my this is my auto trading account. So then I would perhaps take some action here. But I could also see that, it's just short right here. So like a butterfly would take care of it, at 689. So let's, I'll just explain this real quick. This isn't a show on the risk profile, but the cool thing is that we use this _C, or we use just, the ETFs that you choose in order to put your positions and compare them. And so here my risk is, up around 690, let's say. So I could even put a butterfly on at 690, and that would alleviate a lot of that risk. I would have to make I'm only down $1,500 here, so I just have to make, maybe a 10 wide or something like that. to get 1,000. But actually, we could ask Otto about that. What would we ask Otto here? My portfolio at 690 in the SPY. Okay, so I've said, hey, my portfolio is short, or I shouldn't say short, is at 690 in the SPY, but fine, above and below. What should I do? Let's see if my answer matches out of here. And short isn't probably the right thing to tell it. I should have said, kind of not profitable or whatever. But so it's having a little bit of so it's just saying add protection and do this. So it's having set alerts or whatever. So not so it's so it's a little bit wanting on that, but it's all right. I think the answer is decent there. So anyway, so Tyler, you talk about the _C. This is SPY. I could also go back and look at my positions in terms of like another like if I have and we're gonna be adding this, but if I have like Broadcom and I could just look at those versus the XLK, for example. So that might be an interesting thing. So let's talk about the difference between the Otto on the site and the Otto in the dashboard. So could you explain that? Because you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, the only difference is the Otto in the dashboard can query live and historical data because you have an actual subscription to our service, and it costs us money to give you the live data and query the live data and historical data. So if you're on the website, you don't necessarily have a subscription. You probably don't. So that's the only difference.
But I could still ask it like the normal questions for ORATS, and it will go ahead and say that. So I have some notes. Just let me see if my it's fully embedded, context aware. So that's some of the improvements that we do is the workflow, and it knows a lot more about how our dashboard is laid out with backtest finder. We saw it work with the _C. We saw it worked with kind of the outlook and telling us. I think I like that. I like to come in and say what's going on in the market. Like I want to know, what's going on, and then now we're having these positions, and it will be able to tell you a little bit about hedging and doing things like that. So that's pretty awesome as well.
It's going to be great. I mean, I think it's only getting better, right? Like right now, you can just query sort of static questions. You can query some data, but there's so much room for improvement in terms of like being aware of your personal data, like your option scans and your trades, and then you just acting on more things. So it's really exciting to think about where it can be in 6 months.
I mean, we're continuing to improve it. And let's talk about the future of AI at ORATS. It could be even your trading assistant eventually. So again, being an RIA, a robo RIA allows us to do a lot more things than other people can do. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and the suggestion I would give to our clients is get familiar with it now, get familiar with what it's good at and what it's bad at, so that way you can fully utilize its potential. And as we improve it, it's only going to become more of a powerful assistant than it already is. So, that's I think that's kind of my recommendation to our clients is just use it and keep using it, and it's going to help you out the more you kind of understand its capabilities.
And we're moving forward with AI. It's like
Yeah.
we're waiting for improvements in AI to come then to help us out, right? Like, so we're on the cutting edge right now of AI. So if you're with ORATS, you're on the cutting edge of AI, and also we're starting to design more of our data sets around how AI uses it. So
Mhm.
not only is our data set good for traders, but it's going to be good for traders using AI.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, I mean, we have so much data, and AI is obviously very good at analyzing data, right? So the more data you have and the higher quality the data, the better the AI output. And that's what we've been about at ORATS for 20 years. This is not something that we're changing on a dime. This is something we've been doing, and we've been doing well for a long time.
And we're seeing like our fastest growth right now. And,
Yeah.
so all of this is paying off. And, people are starting to understand, what we're doing here and why it's important and why it is, leveling the field for, pro-tail and even institutional clients are coming to using the product now. So, it's neat to see, and it's neat to see the integration with AI to really help people get the most out of ORATs. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, you talk about leveling the field, and that's sort of been our mantra for decades, right? And it's funny is that AI it's our partner in that initiative, right? Like it's very good at that because now you can understand, AI is obviously a brilliant expert in many fields. And if you give it the right data and the right questions and the right context, it can help you out. Like it's like you're a professional, instantly, right? So I think it's a great partner in our mission because it helps empower the average trader with the data that we already have, and just empowers them with context and answers.
And I know a lot about trading, but I still ask Otto things because my brain holds a few things, but then Otto always reminds me of something else that I may have missed. So it's a great check on what you're doing. Even if you think you know everything, Otto really helps you like kind of complete and, test for completeness and accuracy. And so, I'm really happy about it.
I mean,
And
it's
that's
like
about,
having I was gonna say it's like having you, like, right by my side as I'm learning about things and trading things, because we've taught it so many of the methodologies and practices that you've put into ORATs over the years. All of the overfitting, stuff, and like everything that you've preached and built tools around for the last 20 years is part of Otto's DNA.
And that's a good point. Like when I learned, I did an apprenticeship, right? So, I definitely had a lot of finance in my background and a lot of stock trading, but I didn't know options that well. I was trading options, but when you get down to the floor, I mean, it's like, what is going on? And so, my person that taught me, it's a 3-year apprenticeship, or it used to be back then. And then I would do 3-year apprenticeships, on the 14 people that I hired, although some of them, and actually the ones that did not work out that well, were actually already market makers, and they didn't really adopt what the firm's called Changes LLC work ethic or mantras of really watching your risk and really doing your homework and being set to go every day. But that's a different story. So anyway, we're really happy to have ORATS, and glad that you've worked on it so much, Tyler, and brought it to us. And I hope, my hope is that a lot of people are able to use it and get the value that is in there and that we've gotten out of it already.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Thanks, Matt, for demoing it today. Do you have anything else for the show?
I think that's good. Thank you.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Tradier, for hosting us again. We'll be back again next week. And if you guys have any questions about Otto, like if it's giving you some hallucinations or something doesn't seem right, please reach out to us at support@orats.com, because it does do that sometimes, and we're always improving it. And we want to make it right for everybody to use. So please reach out to us. Leave a comment on the video if you'd like, and we'll be back again later. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.